This update will blow your mind. So while researching Ethiopian history for my historical fiction book, The Red Monk of Roha, which was published about a year ago, I realized countless similarities between Ethiopian history and Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Let me be clear, The Lord of the Rings is absolutely based on Norse and English history, but it is also possible that Tolkien was heavily influenced by Ethiopian history. Remember, Tolkien was born in Africa, and when he started writing his book around 1935, Ethiopia was making headline news worldwide after Italy invaded it, with Ethiopia's emperor even being named Time Magazine's Man of the Year twice in the 1930s. Like many at the time, Tolkien too may have taken an interest in Ethiopian history. Here are some of the most glaring similarities between Ethiopian history and Lord of the Rings. In Lord of the Rings, we have the city of Gorgoroth. In Ethiopia, we have the city of Gorgora. Lord of the Rings, Harad. Ethiopia, Harar. Lord of the Rings, Barad-dûr. Ethiopia, Bahidar. Lord of the Rings, Rohan. Ethiopia, Roha. And Roha, which is now known as Lalibela, has always been known for its rich horse riding culture, even today, much like the riders of Rohan in Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, Gondor. Ethiopia, Gondar. And here is where it gets really interesting. Roha was the capital of Ethiopia for centuries, even after its name was changed to Lalibela in the 13th century. Eventually, the capital was moved to Gondar, which, just like Gondor, the land of stone, is famous for its medieval-type stone castles. It gets even better. The capital of Gondor in Lord of the Rings is Minas Tirith, the name of the emperor who first suggested that Ethiopia's new capital be established in the Gondar region, Emperor Minas. And in Lord of the Rings, we have the White Tree of Gondor, which represents hope, peace, and the power of the kings. In the middle of Ethiopia's Gondar stands a 300-year-old tree named Jantekel, planted by the city's founder, Emperor Fasilides, in the 1600s as a symbol of, guess what, hope, peace, and the power of the emperors. The most famous mountain in Lord of the Rings is Mount Doom, which in Tolkien's Sindarin language is called Orodruin, which means fiery mountain. The most famous mountain in Ethiopia, though not a real mountain, is Eta Ale, which in the local language means smoking mountain. Fiery mountain, smoking mountain. But there is more. Mount Doom is known for having a massive lava lake in which Frodo Baggins destroyed the Ring of Power. And guess what? Eta Ale is best known for having the longest existing lava lake in the world since the early 20th century. Also, the number 9 is significant to both Lord of the Rings and Ethiopia. In Lord of the Rings, Sauron gave 9 rings to 9 riders and taxed them to spread his influence throughout the realm. In Ethiopia, whose history is heavily influenced by its version of Christianity, there is a group of clergy also referred to as the 9, whom the king taxed with spreading Christianity and his influence throughout the realm in the 5th century. Just like the 9 in Lord of the Rings achieved immortality as wraith, so too did the 9 of Ethiopia achieve immortality as saints and are highly revered in the Ethiopian church today. Also, both Gondor in Lord of the Rings and Ethiopia had brother kings who ruled together, and the similarities between both sets are striking. The brother kings of Gondor were Isildur and Anarion. The brother kings of Ethiopia were Ezana and Saizana, who ruled in the 4th century. Isildur built a city called Minas Ithil, which means the Tower of the Rising Moon. Ezana's Christian name was Abreha, which means he who illuminates. Moon illuminates. See a similarity? Anarion built a city called Minas Anor, which means the Tower of the Sun. Saizana's Christian name was Asbeha, which means he brings dawn. Sun, dawn. Also in Gondor, after Isildur and his line of kings died out, the rule of Gondor was passed on to stewards who ruled Gondor, but were never accepted as kings. But eventually the wise wizard Gandalf mentored and guided Aragorn from exile to restore Isildur's line of kings by reclaiming the throne of Gondor. Similarly, in Ethiopia, after the Zagwe clan overthrew King Menelik I's line of kings in the 10th century and established their own dynasty, the Zagwe dynasty, they too were regarded as stewards and never accepted as kings. But in 1270, just like the wizard Gandalf did with Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, in Ethiopia, the priest Takla Hymenot also guided Lekuno Amlak from exile to restore Menelik's line of kings by reclaiming the throne in Ethiopia. That line of kings, which eventually moved the Ethiopian capital to Gondar, ruled Ethiopia for 700 more years until its overthrow in 1974 in a communist revolution. You may learn more about Ethiopia's rich medieval history from my historical fiction novel, The Red Monk of Roha, which is set in the 13th century Ethiopian capital city of Roha, and it is inspired by actual events.